I want to outline why I won't be voting in November. It's not that I don't like either candidate or that I'm apolitical. Rather, I don't think voting for the US president or any office will benefit humanity. No politician is capable of fundamentally serving the interests of humanity. This is because of the nature of the social order within which they work. Most contemporary human beings live within the capitalist world system. All representative democracies are part of this system. This system involves class-based social stratification, in which a particular section of the population, the capitalist class, monopolizes control over the production processes and resources of society. This forces all those with no control over production to go to work for capitalists in exchange for wages and salaries. Capitalists hire workers so that they produce commodities for capitalists to sell for a profit. This means that workers are subordinated to the despotic plan of capital, in which capitalists increase the speed and intensity of work according to the average labor time necessary to produce commodities for profit. Workers don't produce to meet their own needs, but to meet the requirements of the market as an abstract force. Despite dominating the workers, capitalists too must subordinate their own needs to the socially necessary labor time. In capitalist society, the needs of all human beings take a backseat to the operation of market forces. The subordination of all humanity to market forces means the subordination of politics to those same forces. Every state, including democratic states, is an overarching political mechanism to ensure the accumulation of capital, i.e. generation of profits. The state is a centralized and bureaucratic institution. It deploys coercion through the police and military on behalf of society's ruling class against its exploited and dispossessed classes. In capitalist society, the state becomes the apparatus of political control by capital over labor. It is the jackboot of the market. Over capitalism's 500-year history, state power has thus increased with the world accumulation of capital. This class analysis of the state explains why dramatic inequalities in wealth, access to opportunities/resources, and political power that favor the capitalist class and disfavor workers remain even in liberal democratic welfare states. Workers can influence politics by acting as a pressure group/coalition via elections. However, the class basis of the state dictates that politicians and parties will always be more responsive to the needs of the world market than worker voter bases. Voting, getting out to vote, arguing about who to vote for, is to channel political resources into a mechanism designed to empower capital over labor and thus subordinate humanity to the market. However, workers have in the past used elections to make substantial gains. After World War II, social democracy in the form of socialist parties in Europe and the Roosevelt administration in the US gained state power through electoral victories throughout the Western world. Its achievement was to construct a welfare state and strong union representation, which, along with the command economies under communist parties in the East, facilitated a redistribution of wealth on a world scale. This did not constitute humanity's escape from commodified structures of domination. This redistribution of wealth served to placate the world working class and materially improve their lives enough so that they would not demand deeper social change. The effect was to entrench humanity's subordination to the market by stabilizing the world system and permitting the expansion of the world economy. The post-war social compact was undone by a decline in real production and thus profitability. This decline was occasioned by the ratcheting up of costs of production for capitalists. Capitalists have had to keep moving production to rural areas outside the money economy in order to deal with workers organizing to reduce the speed and intensity of work while increasing pay and benefits. The state has to tax its population in order to cover infrastructural waste cleanup and resource replenishment for business. The specialized managers whom capitalists hire to manage the production process and who blunt worker resistance by offering some chance of upward mobility have also been demanding more compensation. The steady rise in these costs eventually put severe limits on profitability, such that the social compact became too expensive for the world economy. From the 80s, the welfare state was dismantled and union power crushed. Capitalism has thus reached a stage of structural crisis in which a meaningful social compact is impossible. So not only will voting fail to liberate humanity from its unfreedom in the capitalist world system, it will also fail to deliver material improvements to the lives of workers at the level of the post-war compact. Even if one agrees with the critique of the capitalist state outlined above, they can still ask the question of whether voting for lesser evil purposes might be in order. Many of us looking for an alternative to capitalism believe that at the very least we can vote for the politician who least mercilessly prosecutes the anti-human imperatives of the bourgeois state. One might feel compelled to vote for Kamala Harris because she doesn't propagate the demagogic and xenophobic right-wing populism of Trump. This strategy is fundamentally mistaken in my view. The assumption it makes is that the way to make our lives at least marginally better is to give up control to members of the ruling class whom we hope will be more dovish. The problem the entire time has been that we are estranged from control over the social world we inhabit. Continuing to give the ruling class the consent of the governed just reproduces the root of our problems. A Kamala administration could turn out to be better from the standpoint of the oppressed masses than a Trump administration would have been, or last time was. It could also be just as bad or worse. How bad it is ultimately depends on how the administration must enact a despotic plan of capital. The only way to improve the conditions of the oppressed and ultimately liberate human beings from all structures of domination, including those animated by abstract market forces, is what anarchists call direct action. Direct action is action taken by oppressed people themselves to attack structures of domination and erect structures of free association. Every time oppressed people protest, strike, occupy, boycott, seize control of resources, and govern those struggles and their outcomes themselves, they're taking direct action. These activities need to be generalized through the creation of political and economic associations of workers and oppressed people which they run themselves. This will allow direct action to become coordinated in a way that puts maximum power in the hands of the oppressed to make forceful demands on the existing institutions and the ruling class and to begin to take over the organization of social life, reshape social relations, train ourselves in governing the world through free association. Such organizing, if done right, will enable the replacement of capitalism by a global confederation of freely associated assemblies in which human beings can direct production and meeting the needs of humanity.
This election is the most important election since the last election. It doesn't matter whether or not you're voting for a ham sandwich with hair on it or spaghetti with a bow. It's your civic duty to do the duty on election day. Hey, he said duty. If not, then you're a loser. If not, you're enabling the fascism. And you wouldn't want to be a fascist, now would you? Okay there, kiddo!
Champ! Chief!
It doesn't matter that the spaghetti and the ham sandwich will basically do the same thing, except for slightly different things on very specific issues, but probably not. It doesn't matter, because we gotta think about that later, kiddo. Because if you don't vote for the spaghetti, the ham sandwich will
kill your dog.
That's right. Someone will come to your house with a gun and say, "Hello, doggy," and then bam!
Your dog is dead.
But if you don't vote for the spaghetti... Wait, what did I say? But if you don't vote for the other person, then your tummy's gonna hurt. I mean, like, really bad. Like, after you've had, like, a lot of spaghetti, and you're like, oh my god, this sucks. You're gonna be like, you're not gonna be able to go to that doctor's meeting later. You're not gonna go see, like, Fred later about that really cool shirt you wanted to see. Your tummy's just gonna, like, hurt for, like, a day. But then after the day, you'll be fine. But that doesn't mean you can't not vote. Because, like, if you did it, or if you do vote, then you won't get the tummy ache. Well, if you vote for that one person. If you vote for the other person, your dog is still gonna die. Anyways, that's why voting is important.
And if you don't vote, you're gonna get a spanking. Cut.